And we're going to now transition to Jessica and Jason.
Thank you, Mita. Let me just pull up my screen here. Okay, so just so you all know, I'm using a version of Zoom that doesn't allow me to see the participants. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that I can't see who's on the call. So if Jason, Chelsea, and Kari wouldn't mind, if there's anybody else I'm missing from our sort of team, that would be great for you to let me know. And then the other thing is I can't see the chat. So if you don't mind helping navigate the chat stuff, if you're able to see it, that would be great as well. I apologize. EPA has some restrictions with Zoom, and we're only able to use it through the browser format. I'm so glad you're on, Kari, because I can't show the video, but you're here in person. So yeah. I might put you on the spot.
Okay.
So I'll just start. And hopefully Jason will be on by the time I am done with our introductions. But my name is Jessica Snyder. I work for the Office of E-Enterprise at EPA headquarters in Washington, D.C. My main role is to help navigate and work collaboratively with tribes and trying to ensure that we can fulfill tribal participation in this program. I also work a lot on grants, and I have a strong background in working with tribal representatives coming from the Office of Land and Emergency Management within EPA as the tribal program manager for a few years. I'm going to turn it over to Chelsea and Kari. Chelsea, why don't you go first, and then we'll go to Kari, and then Jason can introduce himself as well.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Jones. I work with Cherokee Nation. Our office is actually the consortia for Region 6. One of the consortias we're ITEC, Intertribal Environmental Council. So I actually work on brownfields, Superfund, E-Enterprise, hazardous waste, you name it, I do it. So that's a little bit about me, and Jason White is my supervisor, and he should be on shortly. Kari?
Great.
Hello, yes, my name is Kari Hadeen. I'm a watershed specialist with the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa. That's in northern Minnesota. And I've been part of the EELC, or the E-Enterprise world, for about 1.5 years, and became the tribal chair. And so I'll kind of chime in with my thoughts and experience with that when asked. Thanks. And Jason, I'll turn it over to you.
Jason, introduce yourself. We can't hear you. You're muted.
I'm Jason White with Cherokee Nation. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this presentation with Jessica. I work with the E-Enterprise grant. This is ready to begin our 3rd year with Chelsea. And we work on multiple programs with Cherokee Nation, and we're excited to be able to present this presentation to you.
Great. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. So my first slide off the bat was actually a video that Kari was gracious enough to record for us, but unfortunately, if I show it, you're going to be able to see her, but you won't be able to hear her. So I don't know if, Kari, if I could put you on the spot for a minute just to maybe explain in your role as the E-Enterprise Leadership Council Chair. She is the tribal co-chair of the committee. There are 3 chairs of the committee. There's a representative from the state of Pennsylvania, the state commissioner from Pennsylvania, as well as from EPA. We have Deputy Administrator Doug Benevento, and then Kari, and the 3 of them co-chair the E-Enterprise Leadership Council. And I thought it'd be helpful to hear from her, given her position, sort of what E-Enterprise means to you before I get into sort of the EPA, or the more bureaucratic definition. Kari?
I was muted there. Now I go. Yeah, so E-Enterprise is, the way I look at it, and I think the way it's kind of defined, is just this idea of how do we make environmental decisions using all these different modern data analysis tools we have, and just the huge wealth of data we have. And so E-Enterprise is kind of this huge chance to kind of create the systems that we're going to put in place to help with that. And so I think working for a tribe, it's a smaller organization, and so it's just been hugely inspiring to be kind of part of this larger group and this larger effort. And then that also means that we can bring tribal concerns and tribal innovations and ideas to the table. And so I think Jessica's going to go into the details of a few of those. But it's just been really inspiring to kind of see the ways in which kind of people are problem solving and thinking strategically, and then really also listening to those of us who work for tribes and kind of incorporate the things that we think will help raise up tribal environmental programs.
That's great. Thank you so much. I'm just going to move right along. And that, if you see on the screen, that's what Kari looks like. So if you see her there. So moving along here. So, I just wanted to, use this opportunity to share a little bit about what the enterprise is and what the exchange network is. And I know oftentimes, I think over the years, EPA has come to many RTOC meetings and other tribal conferences and tried to explain what e-enterprise is. And some people still walk away kind of scratching their heads. And I understand it can be complicated and intimidating, and there's a lot of sort of big buzzwords that we associate it with this program. But really, what the other thing I wanted to let you know is that we're open to more participation. Tribes, states, EPA. We're always looking for more partnerships. There's always opportunities to join project teams, governance teams. In fact, right now, Region 10 does not have a E-Enterprise Leadership Council representative from their RTOC, and we're definitely looking for a tribal representative from the Region 10 RTOC to fill the role. And then there's also lots of other opportunities just in terms of being able to use our tools and use many of the outcomes from the program as you implement your environmental program. So we're just sort of starting out a little bit about what it is. E-Enterprise is defined by sort of three main principles. We use sort of, first and foremost, most importantly, is that we have a shared governance model. So all of the E-Enterprise work that takes place, all the discussions, all of the projects, all of the outcomes of our collaborative work happens under a shared governance model, meaning states, tribes, and EPA work together collaboratively to come up with ideas, generate ideas, and have oversight over this program and the projects that come out of it. It's collective, it's conversational, and it really is a way to strengthen partnership amongst the co-regulators. How we sort of select projects and what we look for in terms of trying to prepare sort of the suite of projects or that we work on really sort of are framed around two ideas. The first is that the projects often need to be streamlined, or they needed to be leaned. If you've heard of that word, EPA has been using it a lot lately. And really what it is an opportunity to cut out waste, to simplify the way that we do our work, sort of stop oftentimes this may include, moving to an electronic system. It may include stopping the multiple chains of review. It may just be something that blocks an activity from being able to take place because of kind of like a burden in the process. So we look for an efficiency, and then we oftentimes use this process called lean or continuous improvement to do that. So we'll take a process, we'll dissect it, we'll see where there's problems, we'll see where there's bottlenecks, and we'll try to sort of uncover these root causes to figure out why there are problems and how we can address them. Then when it comes to solutions, we oftentimes use technology to help move the project along. Not all e-enterprise projects are technology projects, but oftentimes there is a technology component. So like I said, something as simple as an e-signature could be a technology. Moving from a paper to a paperless system is a technology. It doesn't necessarily have to be some scary word like implementing a node or using an API. It can be simply just trying to leverage, using SharePoint or using some sort of collaborative data platform. That could be technology. So there's definitely different levels of technology that is used, and it's not all, it varies in terms of where you are on the spectrum of your environmental program management. The most important thing about e-enterprise is that it's done collaboratively, EPA states and tribes meet regularly, almost every other month, coming together to talk about the progress we made, generate ideas that would be good to kind of put through the e-enterprise machine, and then also talk and celebrate a lot of our successes. A key component of e-enterprise is the Exchange Network. Many of you may be familiar with the Exchange Network grant program or the Tribal Governance Group, the TGG. They have done tremendous amounts of work trying to promote the ability of Exchange Network grants to tribes. The TGG they try to do a lot of mentorship and partnerships with tribes. So I highly recommend that if you want to learn more about the Exchange Network, that you do contact the Tribal Governance Group or ITEP, Lydia Shear, who manages that. They have a wealth of experience, a fantastic website. But one thing that's important to note about the Exchange Network is that it is a critical part of e-enterprise. Exchange Network was born out of the same sort of partnership, states, tribes, and EPA collaborating and having ownership or governance over data standards, data exchange technologies, data access. Oftentimes you might hear of something called the Exchange Network, WQX, CDX. All of these acronyms are components of the Exchange Network in terms of sharing data depending on the media area. The Exchange Network basically was a way to reduce costs so people could share services or share technology and build it once and others can use. And it often also had that critical component of streamlining processes. So I will say that one thing that is really critical about technology that we've discovered through Exchange Network and e-enterprise is that technology solutions are really fun and they're really shiny and they're really exciting to get around, but they don't necessarily work unless your process is streamlined. So you need to really examine what it is and why you need the technology before you just slap it on. So oftentimes e-enterprise projects take a long time to complete, or it may feel like they're kind of moving slow, but we really are not just trying to jump to a technology solution to fix problems. We really want to understand the mechanics of data exchange, sensitivities to data exchange, the abilities of folks being able to use and leverage technologies and also share technologies. This is another slide that sort of explains the components of how e-enterprise and the Exchange Network definitely are interrelated. E-enterprise oftentimes is sort of like the business process of environmental program management, so like making sure that your operations are streamlined and working smoothly. And then oftentimes the Exchange Network and that grant program is affiliated with the technology that is used to help sort of implement your environmental program. So it could be, we'll get into some examples of some of the projects, but I just want you to understand that they are related and there is a nice connection between the two. Again, I can't reiterate enough that if you want to learn more about the Exchange Network grant program, to definitely reach out to Lydia Shear at ITEP. And if you have questions about e-enterprise and how you can get more engaged in that governance over the Exchange Network and over the environment e-enterprise program, you can reach out to Jason and Chelsea, who are on the phone, or myself or Kari. So this is a pretty long slide, and I apologize in advance, but this just really explains some of the key projects which have come out of e-enterprise. So a long, long time ago, I'd say, I think it was about almost 10 years ago, maybe a little less than 6 years ago, a group of folks, states, tribes, and EPA got around the table and they were trying to figure out like the suite of projects that they were going to work on that would be ripe enough for streamlining and then adding that technology component. Many of those projects are still in existence, and you can find a list of those on our e-enterprise.net website, which is linked to at the end of this presentation. But last year, what we did together as a group, the e-enterprise Leadership Council, is they came up with what they called a work plan or a priorities document, and they identified some of the key areas that really we should focus on for FY19 and into 2020. And these are still sort of some of the key projects that we're really talking about more collaboratively with our states and tribes, and still really obtaining input. Some of the other projects that we've worked on, I think there's been about 30 or 40 to date, some have sunsetted and gone away, some are just in operation and maintenance mode, but these ones are really the ones that are on the forefront now. Some of you guys may have heard of the QAPP process or the streamlining of the QAPs. A few years ago, a gentleman by the name of Nico Marthala, who is no longer with us, but he was a big partner for eEnterprise and a big advocate of the program from our Region 6 RTOC, and from the Seneca Cayuga Nation. He was he really tried to get a project that he thought the tribes could have a lot of interest in and sink their teeth into. And that sort of brought up this whole need of us looking at QAPs and understanding why they're such a burden and why they're such a, they take so long to review and approve through EPA, and why they constantly get stuck in that review and approval chain. And if there's opportunities for us to streamline it, meaning can we cut out the waste? Are there ways that we can speed up, accelerate the process, as well as maybe even, you know, looking at the content that is actually submitted to EPA, like the need, are we submitting multiple information in 2 places? So what we did is we really tried to start examining ways that we could we could speed up the process. And right now, I think it's that where the EPA is setting a goal that they're trying to review and approve QAPs with the tribal and state partners. I think under 120 days is sort of the new idea goal. So you may see this from your seats if you're noticing that your quality assurance managers out in the regions are working diligently to try to get your QAPs approved faster. This could be an outcome of the eEnterprise. But the other thing that really came out of sort of us doing some root cause analysis of this effort is learning that tribes need more training, they need in-person training, they need to streamline communication. There needs to be a lot of stuff that has to happen before we even tribes and they work together to develop a QAP. So with that, we're trying to develop a 3-day robust virtual training over the next year or so, so you may see that come out. And then also maybe even some changes to the terms and conditions to make QAPs more consistent across the regions. If you can bear with me, there is a beep happening in my house, and I do just want to shut it off so it doesn't bother me. My apologies. Working from home challenges. So I just, a few of the other efforts that I just want to point to relate to the Attains project, which Kari has worked tremendously on, and I can sort of ask if she wants, and Jason and Chelsea have supported that too. It initiated from an Exchange Network grant and has really come into the eEnterprise field. We're trying to broaden it or outreach. Attains was a pilot, and it's a platform for partners to report data electronically. It creates an online repository of tribal water quality assessments. And this is a very important tool in moving from a paper to a paperless system. And it allows for good environmental data to be shared across governmental sectors. And so folks can compare and understand the quality of others' watersheds. I can't stress enough that this is one of our biggest accomplishments under eEnterprise. And from my understanding is they're moving it from a pilot phase to a national phase, so it is expanding across the nation to all the various regions, so you may hear more about this. Real quick, I'll turn it over to Kari or Jason if they wanted to add anything about Attains, and then I'm going to kind of jump through the other projects fairly quickly because of time.
Sure, I'll just say quickly, yeah, it's been a great process to be a part of. It started in about 2016, and it's taken that long to kind of get the first round of tribes trained and up to speed. And so, yeah, we're really excited. We actually just had our kickoff call, I think like 2 weeks ago, for the next round of tribes. So it's going to be kind of tribes that are trained are now going to train the new set of tribes, and then they're going to train another round, and that's how it'll kind of get rolled out nationally.
If Jason, is there anything you want to add about QAPs or Attains? I know you've been a big force behind those 2 projects.
Oh, yes. And like Kari mentioned, that they're actually nationally, they're unveiling this next rollout to about 18 to 20 tribes, which has been very successful because other tribes across the nation have been watching this pilot, and it's been very successful. And so they've actually opened it up to the second phase of it. And so hopefully we'll start, even in the pandemic, we're still moving forward, and we're going to be doing some mentoring with each other. The tribes that have been successfully completed the project will be mentoring the new tribes. Then hopefully in year 3, there'll be even more tribes, and the pilot will reach out to even more regions at the time. Because I think right now we've got several regions that are actively participating in it. So it's actually growing. So we're excited to see the progress and see where the future it takes us, for, especially with the attains.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to now go back to the PowerPoint. Make sure that you can see it because I'm toggling between various screens. Can you guys see it? The PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let me just put it back in this mode here. So one thing I will say is that the last three projects on the effort, digital strategy, risk communication, and citizen science, I'm going to make a plug for at the last, sorry, I have a little bug in my thing, a plug at the end because we have a few outreach events taking place over the next few weeks that will be doing some deep dives into these projects. So if you're interested in learning more about them, I welcome you to attend. So stay tuned. That's a little plug for EE 2020 webinar series. Next slide, I just wanted to give you an overview of our shared governance. So when we say governance, really it is, I don't really actually know of another EPA state tribal governance group that within, the spectrum of kind of the work that we're doing. This is a very unique group, 10 states, 10 tribes, and 10 EPA members, all, come together. They work collaboratively. It is difficult work. It can be a little unsettling. Everybody's at different spectrums of environmental program management. Not everybody sees eye to eye, but we do find a place of harmony, and there are opportunities for great learning and great experiences to be shared. So I'm just give you a few topics of what we're going to be talking about at our upcoming meeting in October. We're going to be talking about the effects of COVID and how states, tribes, and EPA have been able to use or leverage technology to continue operations. We're going to talk about barriers. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the QUAP project. So, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about some of our other efforts related to CIDWIS, which is a platform for exchanging data about safe drinking water. So there's lots of juicy topics that are talked about on a regular basis. At this point, we're meeting almost every other month, and then we have two now virtual meetings. And the E-Enterprise Leadership Council sort of has ownership over the suite of projects and the suite of goals and the suite of sort of resources available to get these projects off and running. But then it's also supported by many different subgroups. We've got the management board, which is a group of states, tribes, and EPA folks, sometimes often at the staff level, that come together and sort of manage the day-to-day operations of the project portfolio. We've got the IoT, or the interoperability and operations team. These folks often are tech experts and have a lot of information about how folks can build technology and share it amongst their partners. And then within EPA, we've got a host of people supporting the program. We've got our E-Enterprise Regional Coordinators for Region 10, it's Margot Young. We've got the Regional Exchange Network Coordinators, and I have a list of folks at the end of this slide with their points of contact. And then we've got, Cherokee Nation, who's supporting the tribal participants. We've got ECOS, who is supporting the state participants. And then we have some contract support too. So there's a lot of people involved in this effort. It's probably hundreds of people. However, every project team also has a group of people, and we're always looking for support. So if you're interested in learning more about getting involved in any of these various groups, again, you'll know who to reach out to. So like I said, we're definitely needing expertise. Your expertise can provide advice and perspectives to the E-Enterprise Leadership Council members. Your RTOC membership is extremely important. So if you do not have an RTOC member that sits on the EELC, and like I said, there is a vacancy in region. I think at this point we have a vacancy. Actually, Jason, can you help me out here with the vacancies? Oh, you might be on mute.
Yes, there's vacancies, and I do want to mention this slide right here because we reached out to people in Region 10 to help with certain projects, and like Jessica had mentioned, the E-Enterprise covers several different arms and branches of environmental media programs. For example, we do want to thank Eric for, with the Coeur d'Alene tribe, that he helped with the siren tool. And that was like a work group. So we had to ask for additional help going outside, Super Leadership Council. And Eric was gracious enough to help us, and he helped test the siren tool. I just wanted to use that as an example.
And
That's great.
Jessica, we have vacancies in Region 2, 3, and 10.
Great, thank you for that. So if anybody is on this call and is a member of your Region 2, 3, or 10 RTOC and would like to participate in the Enterprise Leadership Council, I definitely highly recommend that you talk to your Regional Indian Coordinator or your RTOC chair about that opportunity. It's important. It's a great opportunity to have FaceTime with EPA senior leaders and other state commissioners. It's a great platform to share your concerns, share your perspectives, for them to better understand what's happening in Indian country, and to really get to make sure that we have equal participation from all the various sectors that are involved in the governance over environmental programs. So I do highly recommend it. It's a great opportunity. The time commitment is, I'd say, I probably should defer to Kari because she'll probably be able to say realistically, but my understanding is it's probably 3 to 5 hours a month, maybe more. Is that?
Yeah, I'd say it depends on the month. Sometimes it's pretty quiet and other times it's very busy, but I always find the work really interesting and just such a departure from some of the other things that I do that, yeah, I really enjoy it.
That's great. Thank you. So just real quick, let me just quickly show you that about the EE 2020 webinar series, because these sessions will dive a little bit into some of the projects that are happening under the E-Enterprise spectrum. So EE 2020, we were supposed to have a really big conference last spring. It got canceled because of COVID. And because of that, we're doing what everybody else is and going towards a webinar virtual platform. Rather than doing sort of it over a few days, we're spreading it out, doing a session each month. Our last session was related to the digital strategy, and I left it up here just so you can see we do have them recorded, and you can view them at the link provided on this slide. If you'd like to learn more about the digital strategy, which really is a roadmap for sort of charting the path into the next 5 to 10 years of what the digital age will look like amongst our environmental partners, I highly recommend that you give that a good a good view. It's about every seminar is I don't think it's consistent with the first Thursday of each month. I think we try to do that. It's an hour and a half. We have partners from all over the E-Enterprise community talking. Our next session is about our citizen science work happening. There's a lot of great information to share, and I think that tribes are going to be extremely interested in learning about the work happening under E-Enterprise as it relates to using citizen science in your the management of your program. We're going to be talking a little bit about data exchange, data information, as well as just hearing some best practices about what's happening in tribal communities and how they're using this information to make decisions. And then we're going to have, and then if anybody wants to add anything, I know, Kari, you're involved with those two efforts, but if there's anything more to add about sort of the importance of learning more about that, that would be great.
Hi, Jessica. This is Nita.
Yeah.
I wanted to jump in and just as a prompt, we're over. Okay. So if you would please wrap up with any final thoughts. And also, if people are interested in the agenda, we have your contact information so they can email you directly out of the platform and ask for more information as well.
Great. Yep. This is our last slide, and this does have some online resources and links. One thing I will let you know is that there are multiple platforms for E-Enterprise out there. All of them should be consistent in terms of information sharing. One thing to point out real quick is this E-Enterprise Community Inventory platform. I didn't have a chance to really get into the details of that, but I do invite you to go into that website to check it out. It's basically a social networking or a Facebook kind of like platform for sharing information between states, tribes, and EPA on the amazing work that's happening in their environmental programs. People share stories of what they're doing with their grant funds, what they're doing to streamline processes, how they're getting things done better within their organizations. And it's just an information sharing resource. and anybody can access the site. You do have to sign up and get a username and password, but once you're in, it's a great way to continue to share information amongst your partners. So real quick, just so you know that you have is that right now this is our current sort of leadership council roll call. If you're interested in learning the names of who's participating in the EELC, and then we have our regional coordinators within EPA. So if you are on this call and you're interested, you know, if you want to just reach out to somebody within your EPA regional office to sort of figure out if the enterprise, you would like to get more involved or learn more about the efforts happening, these are some great names for you. But again, you can always just reach out to me as well, or Jason Okari. So I don't have the chat function, but if there are questions, we can, is there going to be like a place to do it, or are we done?
Thank you, Jessica. People can email questions to you. And also, I know that you're having a hard time interfacing with the platform, so if you wanted to log out of Zoom and then log in as an attendee, you can look at the chat and answer questions there as well.
Well, did we have any questions?
No, I think we're good at this time. Thank you.
Okay, good. I went fairly quickly. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay,
bye now.
So bye.